Here we go again. I've sat in front of this microphone many times. Sometimes it was a different microphone, but nevertheless, I've sat in front of the microphone many times and shared with you all various experiences that I've had as a leader, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a father, as a husband, as a community organizer, as a personal growth strategist. And I've shared all of these experiences, all of these lessons with the idea, with the intention that you would gather the strategies needed in order for you to experience a breakthrough moment. And I'm of the opinion that you may be 5 steps ahead of me or, 5 steps away from your breakthrough moment, but it's not a sense of competition. It shouldn't be as though, hey, this individual is ahead of me or behind me. It should be more of how close you are relative to your breakthrough moment. Recently, I was watching the Olympics, and as I watched the Olympics, I was watching specifically the races that were taking place. And, I was watching the position of the individual that was dead last. And while other people who were watching it with me, they were rooting for those who were already in front, I was rooting for the people dead last. And I said to them, there are 15 racers. That 15th individual needs to focus on number 14. And so the application to our daily life would be that if I feel like I'm number 15 in the race, then I need to look at who's 14th, who's ahead of me, not too far ahead of me, where it becomes almost unreachable or unattainable, or it seems like a pipe dream, but just the person who's just a couple of steps ahead of me. And I get together with that individual and I learn so that I can move ahead. And then I look at who's on 13th and who's on 12 and who's on 11 and who's on 10, 9, 8. You get the picture. And so often we want to be the next Bill Gates, the next Elon Musk, the next, you fill in the blank. But the reality is that you're not going to just get there overnight. You're going to have to focus on who is the individual that's reachable, that's tangible. And that may require that you speak to local business owners, local leaders, people within your church, people within your community, people within after school programs, that you may look at them because they are people that you can reach. And if they are willing to actually give back, which they ought to be, if they're willing to actually give back, then you'll actually be able to learn from them. And if you're willing to actually learn something, you will. This is where mentorship really comes into play, because I can reach out and speak to a pastor, speak to a preacher, speak to a leader, speak to someone and say, hey, this is what I want to learn. I know that you know this. Teach me your ways. The idea of training is that at the end of it, the trainee would have a mental playbook on what they can do in the moment of stress, in the moment of irritation, frustration, in the moment where a circumstance, a situation arises. So many times individuals feel that they're not ready or equipped to face certain trials or tribulations. It's like, yeah, because you haven't built a mental playbook on what to do. Like, what do you do when you get let go from your job? Or what do you do when you've got seemingly nowhere to go? What do you do when the people that you thought were going to be there ended up getting mad because you wanted to progress? What do you do? And those experiences, if you're willing to go through them, can actually provide you a mental playbook. The alternative is that you would have a mentor. And that doesn't mean that you won't have the experience. That just means that when the experience comes, you already have a mental playbook, right? This is why there are people that talk about that they're from the school of hard knocks, because they learned the lessons the quote unquote hard way. They went through them. And so if you just get with that individual that has already gone through the situation, what happens is that it gives you a mental playbook so that when you go through a similar situation, you can say, oh, wait a minute, my uncle, my aunt, my friend, my pastor, my teacher, this person said this, I can apply that at this moment. That's the whole idea of having a mentor. That's the whole idea of having someone that gives you information because they are 2-3 steps ahead of you. Again, if in the race you're number 15, okay, focus on number 14. And by that illustration, I don't mean that there's a competition. I'm just presenting that illustration to say there is always someone around you that is in relative distance to where you want to get, right? If I want to be the best speaker I can be, I have a few choices here. I have a bunch of friends, colleagues of mine that are public speakers, that are pastors, that are preachers. I know a good chunk of individuals that are, podcasters, so I can speak to them. I can say, hey, this is the goal. I want to get to this position. What information can you give me about when I'm on stage, about preparation, about speaking through a mic, about, going ahead and actually sounding like I know what I'm talking about, confidence and actually being able to develop the proper vernacular and cadence and vocabulary, right? I can speak to those individuals. If I wanted to take it a step further, I know coaches that teach and coach individuals in speaking. I also know speakers that put on events, right? So if my goal was to become a better speaker, I have individuals that are in different categories, if you will, or in different positions within that same realm, within that same space. And if I'm number 15 on this, then I need to go to number 14 and continue to inch closer and closer to my goal. Because if I'm aiming to say Tony Robbins, hey, it's going to be a minute. You ain't going to get there overnight. If anything, you're going to get frustration and irritation. And again, I don't present this illustration of being the 15th on the race line as to say that there is a competition. I presented to talk about the proximity. Oftentimes we think we're not even relatively close to anyone that is on the path or on the journey of where we'd like to be. That's not true. That's not true. There's always someone either within your circle that is in the position or relatively close to the position of getting one step closer to where you want to be, or there is someone in your circle that knows someone. That's networking, right? Where maybe I don't know, but I know someone that does know. I have a colleague of mine who wanted to start their own business, and we were talking about it, and I offered some information, but I quickly deciphered this individual is going a different trajectory, a different path, where some of the information I'm going to provide isn't relevant. I knew that. And so I said, but I know someone. I said to them, I know someone that you need to connect with. And I made the connection with them, brought them together to have a meeting, to have a conversation. And what happens from there is on them. But I at least made the connection because I understood while I may not have all the resources, tools, or while I may not be the individual that's in proximity to what you specifically want to do, guess what? I know someone that is. That's networking. That's networking. And I've sat in front of this microphone and I've spoken with you all for many episodes, and I've spoken with you about many things, many topics. The reality is that oftentimes we feel as though we are too far away from what we want to accomplish. And if you would just take a moment to analyze and to consider, there are people within your circle that can actually help you. And so I'll leave you with these two things. Lessons that I've learned in my journey of this year of 2024. And usually I don't date the podcast episodes, but I'm going to date this one. In the year of 2024, here's two things that I've learned. One, the difference between the dime and the nickel. The nickel is bigger in size, but the dime is bigger in value. Your circle doesn't have to be a big circle in order for it to have massive value. So even in the circle that you're in, find the people of value, because those people can help you grow and get to the next stage you want to get to. And number two, we often think that we need to have this drawn out long prayer when we don't know what to do. My prayer in this season of my life has been very simple. Let there be light. Because in the moments of darkness, in the moments where I lack the clarity, in the moments where I don't know where to go, who to talk to, what to do, what the next step looks like, where I can't even see the door, I can't even see the doorknob. I mean, I can't see nothing. In those basic moments, I just say, God, let there be light. Let there be light. Because when the creation of the world was taking place and everything seemed to be in darkness, the scripture just simply speaks that God said, let there be light, and he made the light so. And in those moments of my difficulty, what I've done is I've called to him and said, God, this is a moment where I need you to let there be light. So if you feel like you can't decipher what's next, I encourage you to make this simple prayer. Let there be light.